So in this question, we're given 4 statements which we're told relate to blood flow through the heart, and we're asked which of these 4 statements is correct. So we've got our 4 statements here. Before we jump into each of these statements, it's good to, and do this in the exam as well, refresh your memory of the process of blood flow through the heart so that you can notice any inconsistencies here. So I'll just go through it schematically, and this should be the diagram that you think of in your head. It's the simplest way of visualizing all the key components of the heart. So you have a blue side, a deoxygenated side, and a red side, the oxygenated side. And these are the right and left sides of the heart respectively. So blood flow through the heart takes the following pattern. It starts with venous return via the vena cava, which drains into the right atrium. So this is obviously deoxygenated blood. It passes into the right ventricle, the ventricles being the lower chamber of the heart, and those then pump via the pulmonary artery to the lungs, where they're oxygenated. They then return via the pulmonary vein into the left atrium, which pumps to the left ventricle, which is the most muscular part of the heart, because it pumps to the entire body, the arterial supply, via the main artery, the aorta. So that's the basic scheme of the heart, and that will really help us when it comes to these questions. So let's start with question 1. Oxygenated blood, or rather statement 1, oxygenated blood flows through the right side of the heart. Well, as we've talked about, oxygenated blood flows through the left side of the heart, so that's wrong. Moving on to the second statement, it says that the vena cava empties deoxygenated blood in the ventricle. Now we know that it empties into the aorta rather than, into the atrium rather than the ventricle. So that's also wrong. Moving on, the heart pumps oxygenated blood via the pulmonary artery. Now that we've drawn our diagram, we know that it's deoxygenated blood that goes via the pulmonary artery into the lungs. You can remember that it's an artery because arteries always pump away from the heart, whereas veins always return. So the pulmonary vein returns oxygenated blood rather than the artery, so that's wrong. Moving on to 4, there's a valve preventing backflow of blood from the aorta into the left ventricle, and from our diagram, which you should remember as well, there is a valve system preventing backflow of blood from the aorta into the left ventricle. Likewise, there are valves between the atria and the ventricles preventing backflow of blood when the pressure builds up. So we have our answer, which is that only statement 4 is correct, and that gives us our answer, option C.